Hi, good to see you. Isadora Fontaine, a successful businesswoman and owner of several jewelry stores, returned to her luxurious mansion after a hectic day of work, the reflection of the city lights shining in the windows of her stores as she struggled to maintain the balance between her career and her life. Family. As she drove through the wet streets of the city, she thought about the challenges she faced daily as a businesswoman and mother. Her two oldest children had already followed their own paths in life. They had gotten married and continued with their lives. The only company he had now was his youngest daughter, Camila, a lively and energetic girl who was the ray of sunshine in his life. When she saw the beggar boys soaked by the rain, Isadora felt a tightening in her heart. She knew what it was like to be helpless and vulnerable and couldn't just ignore someone in need despite all the worries and responsibilities that weighed on her shoulders. Adora knew she couldn't turn her back on that child, and with her words echoing in the humid air, she asked him, "What are you doing here?" "Just boy." The boy looked up, his eyes full of sadness and helplessness. "I'm lost, lady. I don't know where to go," he responded with his weak and trembling voice. At that moment, Isadora felt a squeeze in her heart. When she saw the child's condition, she knew she couldn't leave him there alone at the mercy of the storm. "Come with me," he said, gently extending it. "I will take you home with me. You can warm up and eat something." The boy hesitated for a moment, looking at Isadora with distrust. "You won't hurt me?" he asked, with his words shaken by fear. Isadora smiled gently, trying to convey confidence to the child. "Of course," she didn't say, "I just want to help. Come, let's get out of the rain before you catch a cold." Isadora extended her hand towards the child. "My name is Isadora Fontaine, and yours?" The child hesitated for a moment, looking Isadora's outstretched hand before finally shaking. "I'm Raphael," she responded in a soft, hesitant voice. Isadora smiled gently. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Raphael. Why don't you get in the car? I'll take you home where you can warm up and eat something," she said. Raphael looked at the car hesitantly, but then nodded slowly. "Thank you, Mrs. Isadora. I really appreciate it." Isadora opened the car door for him, and the boy got in, still a little cautious. "You can just call me Isadora, Raphael, and there is nothing to thank. I'm just doing what any person would do in a situation like this," he said, closing the door gently before getting into the car. As they drove through the city in the heavy rain, Isadora felt a mix of emotions. She looked at Raphael next to her, and he saw the expression of gratitude mixed with a hint of apprehension on his dirty and wet face. "Then, Raphael, you have a house of family?" he asked, keeping a friendly tone. Raphael looked at the floor of the car for a moment before answering, "No, I don't have anyone. I'm alone," he muttered, seeming a little embarrassed. Isadora felt her heart tighten with sadness. "Well, then you can stay at my house tonight, and maybe even more than that if you want," she said, looking at him with compassion. "You are welcome to stay with me and my family until we figure out what to do next." They finally arrived at Isadora's luxurious mansion. The rain was still falling outside, hitting against the windows as they entered the house, leaving behind the cold and humidity of the night. Isadora guided Raphael to the living room where a fireplace crackled warmly, spreading a cozy feeling throughout the environment. "Please make yourself at home, Raphael," said Isadora as she took off the child's wet coat and hung it near the fireplace to dry. "I'm going to prepare something hot to eat. Are you hungry?" "Yes, I'm very hungry. I don't remember the last time I ate a decent meal," he admitted, with his body shivering from the cold. As he nodded his head, his stomach was growling loudly, and he ached with hunger, and his body was shivering from the cold. Listening to Isadora's question, Isadora felt a tightening in her heart. When she saw Raphael's condition, she approached him and gently put her hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, Raphael. I'm going to prepare something delicious for you," she promised him with a mixture of compassion and worry. As she began to prepare a hot meal in the kitchen, Raphael sat in the living room, absorbing the comforting warmth of the fireplace. He looked around Isadora's luxurious home, marveling at the beauty and comfort he had never experienced before. Isadora soon returned with a tray full of steaming food, gently placing it on the center table in front of Raphael, and said with a kind smile, "I hope you like it, Raphael. It's just a simple meal, but made with a lot of love." Raphael looked the food in front of him with his mouth salivating in anticipation. He thanked Isadora with a shy smile before he began to eat voraciously, feeling the comforting heat of the food fill his empty stomach and his heart with gratitude. All the while, Isadora watched him tenderly, knowing that there was done the right thing by taking him home and offering him support and consuelo in her moment of need. Isadora watched Raphael while he ate voraciously, but at the same time with a certain delicacy, as if each bite were a gift. Precious sat in a chair near him, his expression serious as he thought about how to approach the delicate topic of his past. "Raphael, can I ask you some questions?" he began, his voice soft and careful. Raphael looked up, his brown eyes meeting his, and he nodded slowly, a shadow of sadness passing over her face. "Of course, Isadora, what do you want to know?" she asked, her voice still containing vestiges of pain and suffering. Isadora took a deep breath before continuing. "You mentioned that you have no home or family. Would you mind telling me a little more about that, about your life on the streets?" he asked, maintaining a gentle and compassionate tone. Raphael looked down at the empty plate in front of him, nervously fiddling with the edge of the plate. "I don't care," he said with his voice shaking slightly. "I lost my parents when I was a newborn. I ended up in an orphanage, but things there were not good," he confessed, feeling that getting that off his chest relieved the sadness of his soul a little, since he was not afraid to talk about that topic with anyone. Every word that Raphael spoke, Isadora. He felt a pressure on his heart. Immediately he leaned gently towards him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Can you tell me what happened, Raphael? There is no rush." He encouraged him to share his story. Raphael sighed, a mixture of pain and anguish visible on his face. "I fled the orphanage because he couldn't take it anymore," he confessed, his words broken by painful memories. "They were cruel to me, and they beat me every day as if I were trash." He couldn't take it anymore, he admitted, as tears fell from his eyes. Isadora felt a lump in her throat. When she heard Raphael's words, she grabbed his hand firmly, transmitting support and compassion. "I am very sorry that you went through that. Raphael, you are a strong and brave boy for having survived all that," she said sincerely with a broken heart for him. Pain she had faced so young. Isadora looked into Raphael's eyes with compassion and sincerity. "Raphael, stay with me for a while. My house is big, and there is more than enough space for you. You don't need to worry about being alone tonight or no other. I want you to feel safe and protected here," he said, his words conveying a mixture of kindness and firmness. Raphael lowered his gaze, feeling torn between the desire to accept Isadora's offer and the fear of becoming a burden to her. "It is better that I stay only tonight," he responded, full of regret and uncertainty. Isadora gently placed a hand on Raphael's shoulder, seeking to convey security and consuelo. "Raphael, please let me help you. I don't want you to feel alone or helpless. I'm here for you, and that includes offering you a safe place to stay," he said fiercely, hoping to convince him to accept her offer. Raphael looked at the ground, his thoughts tumultuous with fears and uncertainties. He wanted to accept Isadora's offer, but something inside him prevented him. I don't know, Isadora. I don't want to cause problems for you and your family," she assured with her voice full of insecurity. Isadora responded, "No, you will be a problem, Raphael. I promise you. My house is big enough for all of us," she said, trying to convince him to accept her offer. Raphael looked at Isadora, his eyes full of gratitude and hesitation. He wanted to believe in her. He wanted to believe that he had finally found a place where he could feel safe and protected, but fear still held him. "I don't know, Isadora. I need to think about it." His voice broke. At some moments, Isadora, understanding and respecting Raphael's decision, she knew that he needed time to process everything that had happened and make a decision that was best for him. "Okay, Raphael, think calmly, but if you need anything, I will be here," he said, offering her an encouraging smile. A small smile appeared on his lips. He felt grateful for Isadora's offer even though he was not yet ready to accept it. Raphael knew that she was a good and generous person, and that meant a lot to him. "Thank you, Isadora, for everything," he said, trying to contain the emotion she felt at that moment. The next morning, Isadora called Raphael for breakfast, and upon entering the dining room, she found Camila sitting at the table with a sweet smile on her face, and Isadora with a smile. Warm and proud of her daughter for having treated Raphael so well, she approached them and took the opportunity to introduce Camila, hoping that they would begin a beautiful friendship. Raphael gently looked at Camila, impressed by her sweetness and innocence. "Hello, Camila. I'm Raphael. It's a pleasure to meet you," he said with Camila returned a kind smile. Her eyes shone with curiosity. "Hello, Raphael. Do you want to play with me after breakfast?" she asked excitedly, feeling welcomed by Isadora's hospitality and kindness, and her daughter Raphael responded, Of course I would love to play with you, Camila, feeling her heart warm at the prospect of spending more time with the girl. While they had breakfast together, Raphael felt a sense of belonging and joy that he had not felt in a long time. He looked around the table, seeing the warm smiles of Isadora and Camila, and knew that she had found a home where she truly belonged. After breakfast, Isadora approached Raphael with a harmonious smile. "And I know that this is a big decision, but I want you to know that you are welcome to stay with us as long as you need. This house is now your home," he said with a mixture of kindness and sincerity. Full of hope, Raphael looked at Isadora, his eyes full of gratitude and emotion. He knew he couldn't have found a more generous and compassionate person than she. With a radiant smile, accepted his offer. "Thank you, Isadora accepts. I am happy to have found a home here with you and your family," she said, almost without being able to believe that all that was not a dream but her new reality. At the end of the day, Isadora was anxiously waiting for the arrival of her husband Fernando, who was returning from a long business trip. She was nervous to share with him what had happened during the day, especially about Raphael, the child she had temporarily welcomed at home. As soon as Fernando entered through the door, Isadora ran to greet him. With a warm hug, "Dear, it's good that you're back," Isadora said to Fernando with a smile, trying to hide her anxiety. Fernando looked at Isadora with curiosity, immediately noticing the tension on her face. "What's wrong, Isadora? Why do you seem so worried?" she asked, her expression turning into a mix of worry and confusion. Isadora took a deep breath, preparing for the difficult conversation that was coming. "Fernando, something happened today. While you were out, I found a child in the streets, soaked from the rain. I couldn't just leave him outside, so I invited him to stay with us for a while," he explained without being able to contain his apprehension. Fernando frowned, surprised by Isadora's revelation. "You invited a stranger to our house, Isadora? You don't think that's dangerous, and if he's a criminal or something?" she asked, her concern reflected in every word. Isadora shook her head firmly. "I know it may seem crazy, Fernando, but I felt it was the right thing to do. He's just a child, and he was clearly in trouble. Besides, he couldn't just ignore someone who needed help," his voice answered, sounding determined. Fernando sighed, picking up on Isadora's concern but still feeling uneasy about the situation, and said seriously, "I understand, Isadora, but you need to consider that the safety of our family is the priority. We will talk more about this and decide what to do next," said Fernando, the seriousness of his expression revealing his concern. During dinner, Isadora introduced Raphael to Fernando. Her husband Raphael was sitting at the table, nervous about with Isadora's husband, whose expression was a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Fernando, this is Raphael, the young man I met in the streets, and whom I invited to stay temporarily with us," Isadora said in her voice, transmitting a fragile hope. Fernando looked at Raphael, his eyes analyzing him carefully while he extended his hand in a greeting gesture. "Nice to meet you," Raphael said with a calm voice, but his gaze was penetrating. His distrust. Raphael shook Fernando's hand, trying to convey a feeling of trust. "The pleasure is mine, sir. I appreciate that you allow me to stay here," he said humbly, his voice revealing a bit of nervousness. During dinner, the atmosphere was tense, with Fernando casting occasional glances toward Raphael while Isadora tried to keep the conversation going. Raphael tried hard to appear calm, but could not ignore the feeling of being constantly evaluated by Fernando. Despite the tension, Isadora tried to maintain a light atmosphere by bringing up trivial and friendly topics. However, there was an underlying tension that it permeated the room, making it difficult for everyone to truly relax after dinner. Fernando approached Raphael with his serious gaze and firm words and asked Raphael, "Can we talk for a while?" Raphael felt a lump in his throat as he followed Fernando out of the dining room. He prepared himself for the upcoming conversation, knowing that he needed to find a way to gain Fernando's trust. Fernando took Raphael to his office, where they both sat in front of the desk. The atmosphere was solemn, with the soft light of the desk lamp casting shadows on the walls. Fernando looked at Raphael with seriousness, his eyes a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Raphael, I would like to talk a little about yours intentions here in our house. Can you tell me what I can expect from you?" His tone of voice was firm but not intimidating. Raphael swallowed, feeling the pressure of Fernando's question. He knew he needed to be honest and direct in his answer, and humbly said, "Mr. Fernando, I don't have any intention more than to be grateful for the opportunity that the Sora Doors has given me. I promise to respect the rules of the house and help in whatever is necessary. I do not want to cause any problems." Fernando, seeming to consider Raphael's words, was in silence for a moment, reflecting on the young man's response. He finally spoke, his expression softening. "But our priority is the safety and well-being of our family," he said, his voice full of paternal concern. Raphael nodded, understanding Fernando's concern. "I understand, sir. I promise to do everything possible to not cause any disruption. I am very grateful for the kindness your family has shown me," his voice responded, showing genuine gratitude. Fernando looked at Raphael, evaluating him for a moment. Mine smiled a kind and comforting gesture, and with warm words he continued to offer support. "Well then, let's consider this as a new beginning. If you need anything, don't hesitate to look for me. I'm here to help." Raphael smiled back at Fernando, feeling a weight lifted from his shoulders. He knew there was a lot to prove, but he was determined to show Fernando that he could trust him. "Thank you, Mr. Fernando. I really appreciate that," he said, his voice full of hope. Fernando watched the scene from the garden of his mansion. Through the office window, when he saw Isadora, Camila, and Raphael together, the three of them were sitting on a bench laughing and playing as if they were a family. A squeeze formed in his chest as he watched the interaction between them, feeling a pang of jealousy and resentment infiltrating his heart as he watched them. Fernando couldn't help but think, "Are you starting to see Raphael as a substitute for me? I'm losing my place in my own family." The thought disturbed him deeply, leaving him with a feeling of insecurity and vulnerability. The voice of reason tried to calm his fears by reminding him that Isadora was his wife and Camila his daughter. However, the image of them so close to Raphael tormented him, awakening a pain that he did not know how to alleviate. He wondered if he should confront Isadora about her feelings, but the fear of what he might discover left him paralyzed as he continued to observe. Fernando saw Isadora and Raphael sharing an intimate moment, exchanging glances, warm feelings that made clear the mutual affection between them. His heart tightened even more with the sight, fueling his jealousy and increasing his resentment towards the young man. He felt excluded and betrayed, and the weight of those emotions left him lost in a sea of internal conflicts that he didn't know how to face it. Fernando entered the office with firm steps, his serious expression revealing the storm that was forming inside him. Isadora, who was sitting at the desk, raised her eyes when he saw him enter, immediately noticing the tension in his countenance. "Fernando, what's wrong? You seem worried," she asked, her voice full of apprehension. He closed the door behind him with a heavy sigh, crossing his arms over his chest. As he approached her, "Isadora, we need to talk about Raphael," he began, his voice sounding firm. Isadora, she frowned, surprised by Fernando's direct approach. "What's wrong with Raphael? Has he done something?" she asked, her concern increasing. Fernando, worried, took a deep breath, trying to control his emotions as I explained, "I want Isadora to leave. I don't think it's safe to have him here, especially after what I saw today in the garden." Isadora opened her eyes wide, surprised by Fernando's demand. "But Fernando is just a child. He has nowhere to go," she defended, his voice showing compassion. Fernando continued to express himself with determination and nodded firmly. "I understand, and Isadora, but that does not change the fact that his presence here is causing tension in our family. I do not want him to replace me." Isadora felt a lump in the throat. The understanding of Fernando's point of view, mixed with a feeling of helplessness in the face of the situation. "Fernando, Raphael is not trying to replace you. He is just a child who needs help, and we can offer it to him," she argued, her voice tinged with frustration. Fernando looked at Isadora for a moment, seeing the determination in her eyes, but also sensing the tension that permeated her expression. She knew that the situation was not easy for her, but her concern for the safety of her family was more strong. "Isadora, I understand that you want to help, but we need to think about the safety of everyone here at home. We know nothing about Raphael's past, and I can't just ignore what I saw today in the garden," he explained a little more gently. Isadora lowered her gaze, feeling divided between the desire to help Raphael and the need to protect his family. "I knew that Fernando was right to be worried, but I also couldn't ignore the child's suffering. I understand, Fernando, but I can't just abandon Raphael. He will help us. She needs it, and I can't turn my back on her," she said with determination, her voice sounding firm. Fernando murmured, seeing the solution in Isadora's eyes. He knew that he wouldn't be able to easily convince her to give up on Raphael, but he couldn't ignore her concerns. "Isadora is fine. But we need to find a solution. Solution that works for all of us, he said with calmness in his words. Fernando took a deep breath, trying to find the right words to express his concerns. I have been thinking, what if Rafael does something with Sino? I know if I can trust him completely, Isadora admitted cautiously, feeling a shiver run down her spine. Hearing Fernando's words, she had never considered that possibility before, and now she found herself confronted with the fear that her act of kindness could endanger her family. I understand your concern, Fernando, but I think we should give Rafael a chance. He deserves a chance to start over, he responded, trying to calm his own fears. Fernando, visibly moved, recognized the validity of Isadora's words. However, fear persisted in her mind, clouding her judgment and fueling her insecurity. I know you are right, Isadora, but I cannot help but fear for the well-being of our daughter, she responded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination to keep her family safe. Standing firm, Isadora placed a comforting hand on Fernando's arm, seeking to convey support and security, and reassured in a comforting way that we will watch Rafael together, and if something goes wrong, we will be prepared to handle it. Isadora. She lay in bed, unable to turn off the thoughts that were swirling in her mind. She vividly remembered the day she brought Rafael home, his wet and helpless condition in the rain touching her heart. She never knew that this act of compassion could trigger so many worries and uncertainties while the silence of the night enveloped the room. Isadora found herself questioning whether she had done the right thing by allowing Camila to interact with an unknown child. She knew she wanted to help Rafael, but now with Fernando's worries haunting me, the right decision to bring Rafael home, and if he represents any danger to Camila. Camila's face appeared in her mind, so young and innocent, trusting her mother to protect her and keep her safe. Isadora wondered if she had failed in her role as a mother by exposing her daughter to possible danger, even if her heart was full of compassion for the child. Camila trusts me to keep her safe. I am adequately fulfilling that role. However, despite her doubts, Isadora also remembered the moments when Rafael and Camila played together, laughing and having fun like siblings. She saw the joy in her daughter's eyes and the gratitude in Rafael's eyes, and that made her believe that maybe, just maybe, she had made the decision right. Maybe I'm being too worried. Rafael seems to be a good kid. Maybe I should trust my intuition. Deep down, Isadora knew she couldn't go back in time and undo her choices. All she could do was trust herself in her intuition and the love she felt for her family. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, hoping that the dawn would bring answers to her questions and peace to her troubled heart. Isadora watched through the window as Fernando left for work. Leaving the house in a serene silence with a sigh of relief, she turned back to her housework, planning a quiet day with the kids. Finally, a moment of peace, she thought as she began to set up the kitchen for breakfast while organizing papers on her desk. Suddenly, she remembered an important delivery that she needed to make, a special piece of jewelry for a client who lived in the same condominium. I must hurry to make this delivery, she thought, checking the clock on the wall. I still have time before the children wake up, determined not to disturb the children's sleep. Isadora quietly left the house, closing the door softly behind her. I hope they continue sleeping for a while, she thought, worried about not interrupting their rest. The sun shone high in the sky, bathing the condo in a light. Golden, what a beautiful day for a delivery, she thought, trying to push away her worried thoughts. As she arrived at the client's house, Isadora delivered the jewel with a professional smile and exchanged some cordial words and said goodbye quickly. Isadora drove calmly back home, enjoying the tranquility. In the afternoon, the sky was clear and blue, and the sun cast its golden rays over the city. However, as he approached his house, he began to perceive a strange, somewhat burnt smell floating in the air. What is that smell? He thought, frowning as he tried to identify its origin. As he continued driving, the smell of smoke intensified, becoming stronger and more penetrating. Isadora's heart began to beat faster. A feeling of apprehension spread throughout her body. She looked forward and saw a dark cloud of smoke rising on the horizon. Then she realized that it was coming from her own house. A scream escaped Isadora's lips when she saw flames emerging from one of the windows of her mansion. She felt a lump in her throat, fear squeezing her chest tightly. My God, those were the only words Arctic Particular managed. Her voice echoed tremblingly inside the car, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. Isadora accelerated the car, ignoring any traffic signs or driving rules. His only concern now was to get home as quickly as possible, praying that his family was safe. He could feel the cold sweat forming on his forehead, his thoughts spinning in a whirlwind of worry and fear. As she got closer and closer to the burning mansion, Isadora was outside watching her mansion being consumed by flames. Suddenly, her eyes opened wide when she saw a figure emerging from the shadows carrying Camila in her arms. It was Raphael, the child beggar she had rescued from the rain a few days ago. A whirlwind of emotions took over her: relief, gratitude, admiration. She watched in wonder as Raphael ran away from the flames, protecting his daughter in his arms. Raphael shouted, Isadora running towards them. Her heart was beating hard in her chest as she watched the boy put Camila to safety on the ground. "You have saved my daughter," she said with her voice broken by tears. Raphael looked at her with a humble smile, his face dirty with soot and smoke. "I just did it." "What she had to do," she humbly responded, her eyes shining with determination and courage. Isadora felt a wave of gratitude and admiration flood her heart as she looked at the child in front of her. She knelt next to Camila, hugging her tenderly. "You are a hero," Raphael said with eyes full of tears as she looked at him. "We owe you everything." Raphael looked down, a slight blush staining his dirty cheeks. He seemed uncomfortable with the praise, but Isadora could see the gratitude shining in his tired eyes. "You have done what no one else had the courage to do." Raphael, Isadora continued with a soft and comforting voice. "Now you are part of our family. You will always be welcome here." She put her hand on the child's shoulder, transmitting all the warmth and support she could. Raphael looked at her with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Is," murmured the voice broken with emotion. She approached and hugged Isadora and Camila tightly as if she wanted to make sure that they were all there alive and safe while the firefighters continued fighting the flames in the background. Isadora took Raphael's hand, feeling a sensation of connection and gratitude between them. They had faced the fire together and now shared a bond that could never be broken. Isadora placed the children in the car to take them to the hospital. Isadora was nervous. As she drove to the hospital, her hands trembling on the steering wheel, she frequently looked towards the back seat where Raphael was sitting next to Camila, holding her hand firmly. The girl's eyes were full of fear, but there was also a flash of relief at being safe next to him. Raphael and his mother, meanwhile, Raphael was worried about Camila. He carefully watched each of her movements to make sure she was okay. He held her hand tenderly, giving her a feeling of comfort. "Security and Consuelo, are you okay?" Camila asked in a soft and comforting voice. Camila nodded weakly, a small smile forming on her lips. She looked at Raphael with gratitude, knowing that he had saved her from a terrible situation. "Thank you," Raphael murmured between the weakness she felt, but with a full heart with emotion, saying, "You are a hero." Isadora looked back and smiled at the two, feeling grateful beyond the words. She knew that she had a lot to thank Raphael for saving her daughter's life. "We will soon be in the hospital," Camila said, trying to keep her voice calm. "The doctors will take care of them and everything will be fine." She wanted to convey confidence and tranquility to the children. Although inside she was so worried. As the car approached the hospital, Isadora made a brief silent prayer, asking for strength and protection for her family. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but she was determined to face any challenge that arose in the hospital. The doctors quickly took Raphael and Camila to be treated. While Isadora waited anxiously in the waiting room, she felt a lump in her throat and her hands trembled uncontrollably. Her mind was flooded with worried thoughts. As she waited for news, she remembered every moment of the fire, reliving the feeling of dread that had dominated her when she saw her house in flames. While both inside the emergency room, the doctors were examining Raphael, taking care of his burns and evaluating him for exposure to smoke. He felt a mixture of pain and exhaustion, but he was grateful to be there, knowing that the doctors were doing everything they could to help him and Camila. While the doctors worked, he kept his eyes fixed on Camila, worried about her well-being. Camila, for her part, was lying on the stretcher next to Raphael, her face pale, and her eyes still full of tears. She held Raphael's hand, tightly seeking comfort in his presence. "Everything will be fine," Camila said, Raphael softly, trying to convey a sense of calm. "The doctors will take care of us. I knew I had to. Be strong." for her, even though inside she felt fragile. As the minutes passed slowly, Isadora felt a growing anguish inside her, her heart beating uncontrollably in her chest. She wondered if she would ever be able to overcome the trauma of the fire, and if her family would be able to recover. She prayed silently for a happy ending, knowing that she couldn't bear the thought of losing her daughter or the boy who had become a son to her. Isadora held the cell phone with trembling hands as she dialed the number. From Fernando. Each ring of the phone seemed like an eternity, and his heart felt tight with anxiety when he finally heard Fernando's voice on the other end of the line. His voice faltered for a moment before he could speak. "Fernando, we need to talk. It's urgent," he said, trying to keep his voice. In her voice, even though she was about to crumble inside, Fernando immediately perceived the seriousness of the situation. Hearing Isadora's tense voice, he felt a tightening in his chest as he listened to her words. Heart racing with worry, she urgently asked, "What happened, Isadora? Is everything okay?" Isadora hesitated for a moment, trying to find the right words to say. She knew she couldn't hide the truth from Fernando, but she also didn't want to worry him more than she already was. "Rafael and Camila are at the hospital," he finally said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I need you to come here immediately." He breathed deeply, trying to contain the tears that threatened to break out at any moment. Fernando felt a chill run down his spine when he heard Isadora's words. He could hear the fear in her voice, and he knew that something terrible had happened. Without hesitation, he agreed to go to the hospital immediately, promising Isadora that he would be there as quickly as possible. While hanging up the phone, a wave of panic took hold of him, praying that everything would be fine with his family while he waited for Fernando. Isadora felt enveloped by uncertainty and fear. She silently prayed for a miracle, wishing with all her heart that Rafael and Camila, they were safe and healthy. As soon as Fernando arrived at the hospital, he found Isadora in the waiting room with a worried expression and tired eyes that revealed the tension he was feeling. He hurriedly approached her, taking her hands with concern. "Isadora, what happened?" he asked, his voice full of apprehension. Isadora looked at Fernando with her eyes full of tears, feeling a lump in her throat as she tried to find the words to explain what happened. "Fernando, there was a fire in our house." House began with a trembling voice. Rafael and Camila were inside when everything happened. He swallowed hard to contain the tears that threatened to flow. Fernando felt his heart sink hearing Isadora's words. He could see the fear stamped on her face, and he knew that the situation, it was serious. "My God, Isadora, they are fine," she said with concern in her words. Isadora shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks as she struggled to find the words. "They are getting attention now," she said in a loud voice. Trembling, Rafael managed to get Camila out of the fire, but Fernando and Camila are injured. "She is very scared," she explained with a tight heart as she remembered the distressing moment when she saw Rafael carrying Camila in his arms, both of them needing urgent medical attention. Fernando felt a lump in his throat. Hearing about Rafael and Camila's condition, she hugged Isadora, tightly trying to comfort in the best way possible. "We will get through this together," Isadora said with determination. "Our family will be fine, I promise you." But her mind was full of concern for Rafael's state of health, a young man who risked his life to save his daughter. Fernando was sitting in the hospital waiting room with his mind immersed in deep concern, his eyes constantly scanning the hallway, as if he expected to see at any moment Rafael being brought back from the emergency room. "Rafael risked everything to save Camila. He is a true hero," he thought with a lump in his throat. His thoughts were dominated by the image of the boy who risked his life to save his daughter, now fighting for his own survival. He vividly remembered the moment when Isadora told him about the fire, and how his heart seemed to stop for a moment upon hearing about Rafael's critical condition. The bravery and altruism demonstrated by him were undeniable. But now, while waiting for news, Fernando felt helpless in the face of the situation. "I hope Rafael is receiving the best possible treatment. He deserves a second chance," he thought with a growing feeling of anguish. Every second that passed seemed like an eternity, and Fernando's anxiety only increased. He wondered if Rafael was receiving the right treatment, if his wounds were too serious to be healed. The thought of losing someone so valuable to his family was distressing, and he silently prayed for a happy ending. Dr. Leonardo approached Isadora and Fernando with a serious but reassuring expression, called them to a reserved room where they could talk more privately about the state of Health of the children. Isadora and Fernando exchanged nervous glances as they followed the doctor through the hospital hallway. Isadora's heart was beating strongly in her chest, anxious for news about the state of Raphael and Camila's health. Upon entering the room, Dr. Leonardo welcomed them. With a kind smile, trying to convey calm in the midst of tension, he sat in front of them and began to explain the situation. Mrs. Isadora, Mr. Fernando, I would like to inform you that Camila is out of danger. She only suffered some injuries, minor abrasions, and inhaled a little smoke, but now she is fine. Isadora breathed a sigh of relief, hearing those words, feeling a huge weight lifted from her shoulders. However, the doctor's expression soon became more serious as he continued, as for Raphael, the situation is a little more complicated. He inhaled a significant amount of smoke and has some minor burns. We decided to keep him hospitalized for a few days to monitor his condition and make sure there are no complications. The doctor's words, they fell like a bucket of cold water on Isadora and Fernando. They looked at each other with concern. Isadora felt a tightening in her heart when she thought of little Raphael facing that situation. She blamed herself for taking him to her house, exposing him to dangers such as the fire. It is just that the child should not be going through this, she thought, feeling distressed at the possibility of something serious happening to the child. Fernando put his hand on Isadora's shoulder, trying to comfort her with a look of solidarity. But also feeling the weight of worry on his own shoulders, Dr. Leonardo continued to provide detailed information about Raphael's treatment, explaining the care that would be taken during his hospitalization. Isadora and Fernando listened attentively, absorbing each word with a mixture of anxiety and hope. Despite after the discouraging news about Raphael's health, there was a feeling of relief in knowing that both children were being well cared for at the Fernando Hospital. Isadora entered the hospital room where Raphael and they were being treated. Raphael's eyes lit up when he saw them, but there was a trace of concern in his eyes. Fernando approached him with a comforting smile. Raphael, my friend, don't worry about anything. You're in good health. Hands here in the hospital, soon you will feel better. Raphael nodded his head, trying to smile despite the discomfort. He felt, thank you, Sir Fernando. I just wanted to make sure Camila is okay. His voice was a little weak but firm in her determination to take care of little Camila. Isadora approached Camila, who was lying in bed next to Raphael. She gently stroked her hair and smiled at her. Camila, my dear, are you feeling better? Isadora asked, concerned about her daughter's well-being. Camila nodded with a shy smile. Yes, Mom, I'm fine, just a little tired. Her voice was soft and sweet, but there was a spark of bravery in her eyes, a determination to overcome the scare she had been through. Fernando approached Raphael and put his hand on his shoulder. Raphael, you are a true hero for having saved Camila. We are very proud of you. His voice was full of admiration and gratitude for what the boy had done. Raphael lowered his gaze at the praise. I only did what I thought was right. Mr. Fernando, I couldn't stop. Let nothing happen to Camila. Her voice was humble, but there was a flash of determination in her eyes, showing her inner strength. After a few days of care in the hospital, both Raphael and Camila made a full recovery. The children were discharged and they returned home, where a new chapter in their lives would begin, and Fernando exchanged glances before deciding to call Raphael for an important conversation. They knew that the boy had already been through a lot of turbulence, and they wanted to make sure he felt truly welcome in their home. Raphael called Isadora, her soft voice echoing in the hallway. Could you come here for a moment? We would like to talk to you. Raphael, who was playing with Camila in the living room, looked up. He stood up and followed Isadora and Fernando to the living room where the two were sitting waiting for him. Raphael, we have both spoken, and we want to ask you a question. Fernando began, looking directly into the boy's eyes. We would like to know if you really want to be part of our family. Raphael's heart skipped a beat, surprise and joy upon hearing those words. He looked at Isadora and Fernando, seeing the sincerity in their eyes, and felt a warm comfort spread through his chest. Yes, he responded with a radiant smile. I would love to be part of your family. Words were received with warm hugs and tears of happiness. Raphael felt a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before, and knew that from that moment on he would never be alone again. He had a new family, and his heart was overflowing with gratitude and love. Like this, after the procedures, corresponding legal documents, Raphael was officially adopted by Fernando and Isadora. The boy found not only a safe and welcoming home, but also a family that loved and accepted him as he was together. They formed a happy family united by the love, respect, and mutual gratitude. In the days that followed, the mansion that had previously seemed cold and empty was now filled with laughter, with lively conversations, and the human warmth of a united family. Raphael found a family that welcomed him with open arms as the days passed. Raphael immersed himself more and more in the new family routine. The previously silent corridors of La Mansion now resounded with laughter and games. Camila took him by the hand, eager to show him her toys and share her dreams. "Stories, Raphael. Come see my new room," Camila exclaimed, dragging him down the hallway with a contagious smile. "Of course, Camila," Raphael responded, laughing while following her. Isadora and Fernando watched with joy the interaction between the two, feeling that their hearts were overflowing with happiness when they saw their children taking it. "Also seems that they have become inseparable," commented Fernando, looking at Isadora with tenderness. "It is as if they had been brothers forever," Isadora decided, smiling. Raphael was enrolled in a renowned school in the city, where he quickly stood out not only among the students but also in the eyes of the teachers. His determination to learn and his positive attitude won the sympathy of everyone around him. The teachers soon realized that Raphael not only absorbed the content with ease. "Raphael, you have done an excellent job on this project," said the mathematics teacher, impressed by his performance on a difficult task. "Thank you, teacher. I really tried hard," Raphael responded with a sparkle in his eyes. As the days went by, Raphael became more and more confident in his ability to learn and grow. He actively participated in classes. He asked intelligent questions and helped his classmates whenever he could. His dedication and enthusiasm were evident in everything he did, and he soon became a figure admired by the entire school. "Raphael, you really are an exemplary student. Your passion for knowledge is inspiring," said the teacher. School principal during a meeting with parents. Fernando and Isadora were radiant. Hearing the praise for their adopted son, they felt immense pride as they saw Raphael flourish in his new school environment, demonstrating not only his intellect but also his character and determination. After years dedicated to his studies, Raphael finally finished high school with excellent grades. During that time, his passion for science and caring for others only grew, and he made an important decision to follow the path of medicine. "I have decided, parents, I want to be a doctor," Raphael announced with determination in his voice. Fernando and Isadora looked at him with pride and support. "Raphael, we are happy to see you following your dreams. You will be an incredible doctor," Isadora said excitedly. Raphael enrolled in a prestigious university where he immersed himself in his medical studies. He excelled in his subjects, demonstrating exceptional knowledge and an unwavering commitment to the profession he had chosen. During his internship, he showed a natural ability to treat with patience and a genuine empathy for those who needed help. "Raphael, you have a special talent for medicine. I am sure you will be an extraordinary doctor," his professor told him, impressed by his skill during a simulated surgery. After years of study, dedication, and hard work, Raphael finally he became a respected doctor in the community. His journey from difficult days on the streets to a prominent position in the medical field was an inspiration to many. As a doctor, Raphael demonstrated not only technical skill and knowledge but also passion and empathy towards his patients. He treated each person with dignity and respect. He was always willing to listen and understand their concerns. His commitment to excellence and the care of his patients earned him an impeccable reputation, sought not only for his medical competence but also for his ability to convey peace of mind and security to those who came for help. Raphael became a beloved figure in the community, not only as doctor but also as an example of improvement and success. He continued to inspire those around him, reminding them that with determination and perseverance it was possible to achieve the highest goals. His life story served as a powerful reminder that regardless of where you start, the important thing is the path, journey, and the choices made along the way. And for Raphael, each challenge faced only strengthened his determination and his ability to make a difference in the lives of those who he touched with his work and his example. The meeting between Isadora and the boy on the street turned out to be the starting point of an extraordinary day. Isadora's gesture of compassion in rescuing him from the rain not only changed Raphael's destiny but also transformed the life of the entire family. What began as an act of kindness became the basis of a new family, filled with love, care, and mutual support. This unique moment of meeting and welcoming not only changed the course of the lives of all those involved, but that it also showed that even in the most unexpected moments, the power of love and solidarity can create bonds that transcend the barriers and challenges of life. If you like this story, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support is crucial so we can continue. By sharing wonderful stories like this, we greatly appreciate your support.